Rich Kotite takes over the New York Jets in 1995 after a rocky end in Philadelphia. Standing on the sideline in his signature windbreaker, Kotite watches the Jets unravel to a 3-13 collapse his first year. 1 year later, the team goes 1-15, posting the worst record in franchise history. Between Week 6 of 1995 and the end of the 1996 season, Kotite loses 33 of 37 games. His offense sputters, his locker room fractures, and his play calling becomes infamous across the league. In one 1995 matchup against the Colts, down late in the game, Kotite dials up a baffling 4th and 15 quarterback sneak. The crowd at Giants Stadium doesn't just boo the play, they boo the opening kickoff the following week. Players publicly question the game plan, fans call for his resignation, and the front office doesn't even wait for Black Monday. Kotite resigns at the end of '96, walking away with a .125 winning percentage in New York. Still one of the worst two-season runs by any coach in modern NFL history. Urban Meyer arrives in Jacksonville in 2021 as a three-time college national champion with zero NFL experience. He inherits the #1 overall pick, a generational quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and a rebuilding roster hungry for leadership. But just 13 games into his first season, Meyer is fired. The Jaguars stumble to a 2-11 record under his watch, and the on-field product looks completely unprepared, marked by miscommunications, missed assignments, and an offense ranked 32nd in points scored. The off-field chaos overshadows even the losses. After a Week 4 loss in Cincinnati, Meyer skips the team flight home and is later caught on video groping a woman at his Ohio restaurant. Weeks later, kicker Josh Lambo publicly accuses Meyer of kicking him during practice. When questioned by the press, Meyer reportedly tells his staff, "I'm a winner, you guys are losers," in a closed-door locker room tirade. Bobby Petrino. The Falcons hire Bobby Petrino in 2007 after a successful run at Louisville, hoping his offensive mind can steady a franchise rocked by Michael Vick's suspension. But by Week 13, Atlanta sits at 3-10, and Petrino stuns the locker room by quitting mid-season. He doesn't call a team meeting, doesn't face the players. He simply leaves a laminated note at every locker. Hours later, he's announced as the new head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Team owner Arthur Blank feels blindsided. Petrino had assured him days earlier that he was committed to finishing the season. Instead, he bolts overnight, abandoning his first and only NFL stint without so much as a farewell. The Falcons collapse to 4-12, and Petrino becomes a cautionary tale for every college coach eyeing the pros. Hugh Jackson. The Browns hire Hugh Jackson in 2016 to steer a rebuild after years of instability. He starts with a 1-15 record, then follows it with a winless 0-16 campaign in 2017, the second such season in NFL history. Over 3 seasons, Jackson goes 3-36-1, including a 20-game losing streak that stretches across 2 calendar years. Despite the carnage, he publicly declares himself the best coach in football, drawing ridicule from media and fans alike. Behind the scenes, Jackson clashes with offensive coordinator Todd Haley throughout the 2018 season. Both are fired mid-year after a 2-5-1 start, with rookie quarterback Baker Mayfield openly criticizing Jackson for joining the Bengals shortly after his firing. Cleveland's locker room celebrates his departure, and Jackson's tenure becomes a blueprint for dysfunction at the head coaching level. Rod Marinelli takes over the Detroit Lions in 2006, bringing a military-style discipline forged during his time as a defensive line coach. By his 3rd season, discipline gives way to disaster. The 2008 Lions become the first team in NFL history to finish 0-16, surrendering 517 points while fielding the league's 32nd ranked defense and 30th ranked offense. 7 of those losses come by margins of 20 points or more, and the team posts a negative 249-point differential across the season. Despite the collapse, Marinelli sticks to his post-game mantra, blaming issues on pad level rather than personnel or scheme. One reporter jokes that Detroit's pad level must be underground. The Lions finish dead last in takeaways, red zone offense, and sacks, and the front office fires Marinelli 2 days after the season ends. Steve Spurrier. Washington hires Steve Spurrier in 2002, handing the former Florida Gators coach a 5-year, $25 million deal, the richest in NFL history at the time. Spurrier brings his fun-and-gun offense to the pros, a pass-heavy scheme that worked in college but collapses against NFL speed. In his first season, Washington finishes 7-9, ranks 20th in points scored, and allows 48 sacks. By year 2, the offense regresses even further, posting just 17 points per game and finishing 5-11. Spurrier refuses to adapt, ignoring blitzes, spacing mismatches, and personnel limitations. He reportedly played 36 holes of golf during game weeks. His playbook remains static across losses, and when asked about his plan to counter NFL defenses, he shrugs and says, "We'll just pitch it around a little bit." David Shula. The Bengals named David Shula head coach in 1992, hoping the son of Don Shula inherits even a fraction of his father's success. At just 32 years old, he becomes the second youngest head coach in NFL history, but the results are disastrous. Over 5 seasons, he compiles a 19-52 record, losing 50 games faster than any coach before him. His teams never make the playoffs, never win more than 7 games, and rarely show signs of improvement on either side of the ball. Shula's offenses rank bottom 5 in scoring for 3 straight seasons, and he burns through quarterbacks like Jeff Blake and David Klingler without developing either. Despite his surname, there's no Hall of Fame aura in Cincinnati, only frustration. Fans call for his firing by year 3, and by 1996, the Bengals finally agree. Marty Mornhinweg. Marty Mornhinweg takes over the Detroit Lions in 2001 with a reputation as a quarterback guru, but leaves 2 years later with one of the worst coaching records in franchise history. He posts a 5-27 mark across 2 full seasons and never once manages back-to-back wins. The Lions finished dead last in the NFC Central both years, with offenses that stall under a rotating cast of quarterbacks and a defense that can't hold a lead past halftime. His most infamous moment comes in a 2002 overtime game against the Bears, when Mornhinweg wins the coin toss, then elects to kick, choosing field position over possession. Chicago scores a game-winning field goal without Detroit touching the ball. The move cements him as a punchline in coaching circles. He's fired after the 2002 season, before his contract even ends, and never gets another head coaching job again. Ray Handley. Ray Handley inherits a Super Bowl-winning roster in 1991 and runs it straight into the ground. Over 2 seasons with the New York Giants, he posts a 14-18 record, failing to reach the postseason either year. The biggest controversy comes early when he benches veteran quarterback Phil Simms in favor of Jeff Hostetler without providing a clear explanation to fans or players. Simms, a former Super Bowl MVP, is healthy and ready, yet sits while the team spirals. By week 3 of his second season, Giants fans boo Handley before kickoff. His relationship with the locker room fractures, and his press conferences devolve into terse, evasive answers that only worsen the media storm. Even team legend Lawrence Taylor publicly questions the leadership. After finishing 6th to 10th in 1992, Handley is fired and never coaches in the NFL again. Mike Singletary. Mike Singletary, Hall of Fame linebacker turned head coach, takes over the 49ers midway through the 2008 season. He brings fire and discipline, but little structure. Over 40 games at the helm, Singletary posts an 18-22 record, never finishing with a winning season. His most memorable moment doesn't come on the field, but at the podium, with the now infamous "I want winners" tirade after a Week 8 loss in 2008. The speech cements his tough guy persona, but not a turnaround. Singletary's tenure spirals further when he drops his pants in the locker room during halftime of a blowout loss, to prove a point about embarrassment. Players begin tuning him out. Offensive struggles mount, with Alex Smith regressing behind a carousel of coordinators. The front office finally acts in 2010, firing Singletary before Week 17 after a 5-10 record. Jim Tomsula. Jim Tomsula becomes the 49ers head coach in 2015 after a single interview, and it shows. He inherits a gutted roster just months removed from Jim Harbaugh's exit and immediately falls flat. Tomsula goes 5-11 in his only season, with San Francisco ranking 31st in total offense and 32nd in passing yards. His public presence doesn't help. Press conferences quickly go viral for awkward pauses, incoherent answers, and defensive rambling. On the sideline, he sweats through multiple suits during early season games, becoming a meme before managing a meaningful win. The locker room reportedly likes him, but not enough to win. Tomsla's offense scores more than 20 points just 5 times all year, and he benches Colin Kaepernick mid-season in favor of Blaine Gabbert, who posts a 3-5 record. After just 16 games, the 49ers pull the plug, eating nearly $14 million in buyout costs. He never gets another NFL head coaching offer. Chan Gailey. Chan Gailey takes over as head coach of the Buffalo Bills in 2010, bringing with him a resume heavy on coordinator stints and college experience, but light on NFL wins. Over 3 seasons, Gailey compiles a 16-32 record, with only 1 season above 5 wins. His offensive schemes lean conservative, despite boasting dynamic talents like C.J. Spiller and Stevie Johnson. The Bills ranked 28th in total offense by 2012 and finished dead last in passing touchdowns. Defensive collapses compound the issue, and by late that season, Buffalo drops 13 of its final 19 games. Publicly, Gailey admits before Week 15 in 2012 that playoffs aren't realistic, effectively waving the white flag with 2 games left. Attendance plummets, and fan frustration hits a peak after a 50-17 blowout loss to Seattle and Toronto. He's fired the day after the season ends, replaced by Doug Marrone. Frank Kush, a college legend at Arizona State, joins the Baltimore Colts in 1982 after nearly 2 decades dominating the college ranks. But the NFL quickly exposes his rigid methods. In his lone full season as head coach, the Colts stumbled to a 4-12 finish, ranking near the bottom of the league in both scoring and passing. Players complain about excessive practices, verbal abuse, and outdated motivational tactics. That season, Kush reportedly punches punter Roan Stark during a team workout, sparking media outrage and locker room resentment. The situation deteriorates fast. By the middle of the 1984 preseason, Colts ownership fires Kush amid a full-blown revolt in the locker room. His final NFL legacy includes no playoff appearances, fractured team culture, and a deeply alienated roster. Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley becomes the Jaguars' head coach in 2013, bringing with him a reputation as the architect of Seattle's dominant Legion of Boom defense. But in Jacksonville, he inherits a gutted roster and never overcomes the rebuild. Across 4 seasons, Bradley compiles a 14-48 record, losing more games in his first 50 than any head coach in NFL history. His teams rank in the bottom 5 for scoring 3 straight years, and the defense, his specialty, surrenders over 25 points per game in back-to-back seasons. Despite blowout losses, Bradley remains relentlessly upbeat. He tells reporters the team is getting close after a 38-14 collapse in 2016 and praises player effort even in double-digit defeats. After a Week 15 loss drops Jacksonville to 2-12, the front office fires Bradley mid-season, making him one of the few head coaches ever dismissed before finishing a single campaign. Mike McCoy. Mike McCoy takes over the Chargers in 2013 and makes an immediate impact, going 9-7 and winning a playoff game in his first year. But after back-to-back 9-7 seasons, his tenure nosedives. Over his final 2 years in San Diego, McCoy finishes 9-23, with the team blowing fourth-quarter leads in 7 different games. Despite working with Phillip Rivers, the offense regresses year after year, ranking 24th in points per game by 2016. McCoy loses the locker room and the scoreboard, culminating in a last-minute Week 16 loss that finally seals his firing. McCoy's second act as offensive coordinator in Denver goes worse. The Broncos start 3-1 in 2017, then spiral into a 6-game losing streak with quarterback play deteriorating weekly. Denver ranks 27th in passing touchdowns and leads the league in giveaways by Week 11. The team pulls the plug before Thanksgiving, making McCoy one of the rare coaches fired mid-season in 2 separate jobs. Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden arrives in Washington in 2014 with a 6-year contract and high expectations, but leaves in 2019 with a 35-49-1 record and no playoff wins. His tenure begins with quarterback controversy, benching Robert Griffin III, then Kirk Cousins, then bouncing back and forth between them before finally committing to Cousins in 2015. Despite flashes of offensive promise, Gruden's teams consistently struggle on defense, finishing bottom 10 in points allowed 4 out of 6 seasons. By 2018, Washington starts strong at 6-3, but collapses after quarterback injuries, missing the playoffs again. Gruden survives one more offseason, but not much longer. In 2019, Gruden loses 5 straight games to open the year, then makes headlines for all the wrong reasons. A video surfaces showing him allegedly partying with younger women, reportedly taken during the season. He's fired the next morning, making him the first coach dismissed that year. Washington posts the league's second worst point differential during his final 20 games, trailing only Miami. Les Steckel. In 1984, the Minnesota Vikings hand the reins to Les Steckel, a former Marine Corps captain with 0 head coaching experience. He installs a militaristic regime built around calisthenics, discipline, and push-ups, unusual even by the standards of the mid-1980s NFL. Players run extra laps for mental mistakes and endure training camp like boot camp. The results speak for themselves, a 3-13 finish. The worst record in franchise history at that time. The team loses 7 games by double digits and ranks 28th out of 28 teams in points allowed. Veterans rebel early, and Steckel's rigid methods fracture the locker room. One player later calls the season football prison. Ownership fires Steckel before the end of January, barely a year into his tenure. The next morning, the Vikings bring back retired Hall of Famer Bud Grant, who immediately reverses Steckel's military rules. Joe Bugel. After earning respect as the architect of Washington's legendary Hogs offensive line, Joe Bugel lands his first head coaching role with the Phoenix Cardinals in 1990. But the reputation doesn't translate. Across 4 seasons, Bugel posts a 20-44 record and never wins more than 5 games in a single year. In 1991, the Cardinals surrender 405 points, second worst in the NFC, and finish 4-12. Players anonymously label the team undisciplined, and reports of loose practices circulate in local media. Bugel emphasizes loyalty and toughness, but rarely holds players accountable for poor execution. The lack of structure leads to recurring penalties, blown assignments, and late-game collapses. Attendance at Sun Devil Stadium plummets, and fan frustration peaks after a 2-9 stretch in 1993. In December of that year, the front office cuts ties before the season finale, ending Bugel's run without a single playoff berth. That failure marks the Cardinals' last coaching reset before their 1994 relocation talks begin. Rich Brooks. Rich Brooks enters the NFL in 1995 after leading Oregon to its first Rose Bowl appearance in 37 years. But his transition to the pros with the St. Louis Rams proves rocky from the start. In 2 seasons, Brooks compiles a 13-19 record and never finishes above 3rd in the NFC West. Players complain about college-style practices that emphasize conditioning over tactical preparation, while veterans bristle at motivational drills that feel out of place in a pro locker room. In 1996, the Rams lose 5 games by double digits and average just 16.8 points per contest. Brooks never adapts to the pace or egos of the NFL. He's fired before the start of his 3rd year, and the Rams immediately hire Dick Vermeil, another college-to-pro convert, but with a Super Bowl pedigree. 3 seasons later, Vermeil lifts the Lombardi Trophy with largely the same roster. Brooks's brief tenure becomes a forgotten prelude to the greatest show on turf, and a case study in why NCAA success doesn't always scale. Mark Trestman. Mark Trestman enters Chicago in 2013 with a reputation as a quarterback guru, fresh off a CFL title and known for his cerebral offensive schemes. His first season shows promise. Jay Cutler and Josh McCown combine for 4,281 passing yards, and the Bears finish 8-8. But by 2014, the entire operation collapses. Chicago allows 50 or more points twice that season, 51 to New England in Week 8, and 55 to Green Bay in Week 10, marking the first time in franchise history the Bears give up 50-plus twice in a year. The defense ranks 30th in points allowed and last in red zone stops. Trestman's passive leadership style alienates a veteran-heavy locker room. Reports surface of players tuning out meetings, ignoring coaching directives, and openly mocking the staff behind closed doors. The Bears closed the season 1-5, including a 31-15 loss to the Vikings that seals a 5-11 record. Trestman is fired after just 2 seasons, and Chicago begins a full rebuild under new management. His brief tenure leaves the franchise without direction, forcing the Bears to reset both scheme and culture. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.